thank you very much. Our late beloved chairman, Elijah Cummings, would be so proud of you for convening this hearing to give us the opportunity to hear and to amplify the voices of the activists in the streets who have galvanized the conscience of America and given us the chance to repair the social contract broken by centuries of police violence against the Black community in our country. Public opinion polls showed that 3/4 of Americans support the protests despite all the violent provocations of Boogaloo and other right-wing extremist groups determined to sabotage the magnificent nonviolence of the protesters. Americans overwhelmingly want change and reject the kind of murderous government violence embodied in Officer Derek Chauvin's excruciating 8-minute and 46-second imposition of torture and asphyxiation on the body of the handcuffed George Floyd, who was begging for his life. Last week, I had the solemn duty to participate in the Judiciary Committee's hearing on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which we passed out of committee Wednesday, and I will be proud to vote for next week. At the hearing, we heard testimony from George Floyd's brother, Phil Anise, which still rings in my ears. I am so tired, he said. I am tired of the pain. I am here to ask you to make it stop. Stop the pain in America. It will be difficult to stop the kind of pain that's already been inflicted at the hands of agents of your own government. But today, at least, we will provide an opportunity for the community to hear and understand the pain and exhaustion experienced by Black communities across America and to participate in advancing a comprehensive legislative reconstruction of policing in our country to prevent the further imposition of this kind of pain on more Black families and bring some measure of justice and peace to the families that are still grieving today. Federal action is badly needed because state and local governments have failed to effectively address the persistence of police brutality despite repeated movements and efforts at local reform. The whole point of civil government is that we will be safer and more secure inside the social contract than will be outside the social contract, which Thomas Hobbes described as a state of nature and a state of war, nasty, solitary, brutish, and short. Where was the social contract for George Floyd? Where was the social contract for Breonna Taylor? Where was the social contract for 12-year-old Tamir Rice? Where is the social contract for millions of Black Americans who live in fear of police officers whose salaries they pay? Put simply, for Black Americans, the social contract has always been contaminated by racism and violent white supremacy, our nation's original sin. The basic promise to provide safety and security rings hollow for too many communities ravaged by these episodes of police violence. A Black American has more than doubled the chance of being killed by the police as a white American, and police encounters are a leading cause of death for young Black men. The problems of police brutality we confront today reflect the persistence of embedded structural racism in our country. Violent white supremacy is the real deep state that we must uproot and discard in America. Yes, my friends across the aisle who've been in search for it for several years now, racism is the real deep state in America. Violent white supremacy dominated our country for an entire century, and the Supreme Court did nothing other than constitutionalize it in the infamous Dred Scott decision, which determined that an African American has no rights the white man is bound to respect. And so we had a civil war and a reconstruction, our first opportunity to try to purge the violence of white supremacy. And it lasted for 12 years before it was washed away by the Ku Klux Klan and night riders and grandfather clauses, poll taxes, literacy tests, violent and nonviolent assault on the rights of African Americans. And it took another century where African Americans had to live through Jim Crow, American apartheid, before we got another civil rights movement led by people like our colleague John Lewis and the blood sacrifice of Dr. King and Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman and Medgar Evers and thousands of other people who suffered at the hands of the violence of racists. And we got the Voting Rights Act of 65. We got the Civil Rights Act of 64. And again, we've experienced a terrible rollback in decisions like Shelby County versus Holder and the appearance of presidents elected not by a majority, but by the Electoral College like Donald Trump, who utter phrases like finding very fine people marching among racists and fascists and Klansmen in the cities of America. My friends, we conduct this briefing today on Juneteenth, our national commemoration of the end of slavery in the United States. We celebrate freedom and emancipation. We should be working for a third and final Reconstruction in America. Let's finish the unfinished work from the Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s and the Reconstruction of the 1860s and 70s, where I'm proud to say, in a bipartisan spirit, it was radical Republicans from Ohio who led America like John Bingham and Josh Giddings, who led America in saying we must have interracial commitment to rebuilding America from the ground up, not on the basis of white supremacy, but on the basis of equality and justice for all. I want to thank all of our witnesses today for being part of this great struggle. I yield back, Madam Chair.
All this.
Thank you. Okay, pretty well.